Good to see you, brother. Good to see you.
Likewise, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a long minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You're
Como
looking good,
dicen,
man.
hace tiempo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hace mucho tiempo, man. Mucho tiempo. Brother, hey, man. You know, you're looking great. Thank you for being a part of the show, man. I wanted to originally reach out to you because, you know, this podcast is about real people, real stories. And, you know, I've known you for quite some time. And you know, I met you within the salsa scene through Jesse. And
Right.
you've been an amazing musician for so many years. And,
Mm.
you know, blood, sweat, and tears when it comes to just, you know,
Yeah.
musician and your band. And I just wanted to hear your story, man. How did you get into salsa? How did you get into this entire world of being a musician, man? Tell me your story, bro. Love to hear it.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. The funny thing is that no one in my family, no one in my immediate family, as far as my mom and dad, were ever musical.
Oh, shit, really?
So
Oh,
the thing that I find interesting is that they never were into music. The only thing they might have had some records around the house or whatever.
yeah.
Uh, but the one who influenced me the most when it came to music uh, was my brother.
Oh, shit.
Because my brother was the one, he's 6 years older than me,
Right.
and he would bring all of the salsa records to the house.
Okay.
So he would play them and he would be jamming the records and stuff, and I'd be listening to them, and I'm like, wow, man, that sounds good. I like that.
Right.
Uh, so whenever he wasn't at home or whenever he would leave the house, he's like, don't mess with my records. Don't play my records, man. He said, you play my records, I'm gonna kick your butt, right? I said, no, don't worry. I'm not gonna mess with them. I won't mess with. As soon as he left the house, I would go to the record player, pull out his records, and start playing his records. Um, yeah. So I was listening to these records, and I'm going, I'm like, wow, I didn't even know who these people were.
Yeah.
He had people like Eddie Palmieri. He had Ray Barretto, Fania All Stars,
How
Willie.
long ago was this? How long? Were you a kid or how long?
Bro, I was probably like around 8, 9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was a kid,
Yeah.
but the thing is, like when he played the records at the house,
Yeah.
I liked the rhythm, man. I was like, wow, that sounds good. I like the way that sounds. So that's what attracted me. And like I said, whenever he wasn't there, I would put on the records and I'd be like, oh, this guy's pretty good. This guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
And eventually I put on a Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe record, and that was it. It was history because Hector Lavoe became, as you may or may not know, he became my favorite singer.
Right.
And I would listen to all his stuff. So what happened a few times was while I'm listening to the records, guess who showed up at the house?
Oh.
My brother. He's like, hey, man, you're listening to my records, man. I'm going to kick your butt, man. What are you doing listening to my records? So that went on probably for like a year or two. And, I would just pray that he wouldn't bust me with his records. He just didn't want me to damage the records or scratch them because before it was the vinyl.
Vinyl.
Yeah,
and, right.
You didn't want to get the records all scratched up.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, so little by little, what ended up happening was that he saw that I had a genuine interest in the music. Yeah. And what I started doing naturally, I just started singing along with the records.
Right.
So I would just hear the records and I'd just be like, not imitating, but just trying to copy what they were singing or what they were saying or what they were doing.
Right.
So I would just sing the songs and, little did I know it, but he was actually checking me out and he was actually listening to me.
Okay.
And he was like, so he somehow or another, he figured maybe that I could sing a little bit. Yeah. Eventually, to jump ahead a little bit, he ended up playing trumpet in high school. He became a trumpet player.
Yeah.
And then one of his friends in high school was in a salsa band in Chicago. By the way, this is all happening in Chicago, where I was born and raised. Okay, a Puerto Rican kid in Chicago. So my brother's in high school, and he picks up the trumpet because he heard that music and he heard the trumpets, and he's like, man, I like this stuff. So he picked up the trumpet in high school, and it turns out that one of the trumpet players in his high school band said, hey, I'm playing with a salsa band now. My brother's like, for real? And so that guy was able to get my brother connected to be able to play in a salsa band.
Oh, shit.
Right.
Okay, cool.
So he went from listening to the music himself to playing with a band. And then eventually from there, as time went on, another person told him, hey, there's a really good band that's looking for a trumpet player, and I think you should take that gig. So my brother said, okay, I'll try out. So he went and tried out, and he got that gig. So the band that he ended up working with was a band, eventually, was a band called La Solucion. Okay. Nice. Now there's a famous band in Puerto Rico called La Solucion, but the Solucion from Chicago actually claims that they were the first band with that name, La Solucion.
Oh shit, controversy.
Yeah, so controversy, exactly. So my brother always says, man, we were La Solucion first than those guys in Puerto Rico. Yeah. Now I'm gonna bring it home a little bit to try to connect it in case anybody out there is familiar with salsa music really well. La Solucion in Puerto Rico is the band where Frankie Ruiz became famous.
Ah, okay, yep. Okay.
So Frankie Ruiz played with La Solucion. After La Solucion, he went to Tomio Valencia. After Tomio Valencia, he went on to his solo career. But anyway, getting back to that, so my brother eventually makes it into La Solucion of Chicago playing trumpet, and his manager one day tells, or my brother overheard his manager at that time say, hey, I'm going to start a new band, and I'm starting a new band with younger musicians. I want like teenagers, high schoolers, you know. That's when I think when Menudo and all that crap was out, all of that stuff. So he's thinking, I'm going to do a group with younger musicians. Right. So my brother came home one day and he goes, hey man, I scheduled you for an audition. And I'm like, what? What do you mean you scheduled me for an audition?
Shit.
Yeah. So he's like, I scheduled you for an audition for Wednesday. You have a few days to learn this song. And you got to learn a Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe song. And I'm like, I can't sing. I don't know what I'm doing, you know?
Shit.
So then he says, listen, man, I've been hearing you and you can sing. I've been listening to you singing with the records, and I know that you can do it. So, you know, he served as a source of encouragement to me. And he said, you can do it. Learn the song. Here's the song. And I'm not lying. I probably listened to the song like 100 times, you know, just so I could learn it and get it down. Right. So what ended up happening was he ended up taking me to that rehearsal. He told his manager, hey, my little brother sings. I'm going to bring him to that audition, to the rehearsal. I had him learn the song, da, 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 da. Yeah. So back then I had long, you know, long, thin hair, and it was parted in the middle.
What? You had hair?
I had hair, man. Believe it or not, at one time, man. All of the years on the side.
Like you.
Oh, beautiful. You look great, man.
I'm like you right now, man.
You look fabulous, bro.
I shaved it for this interview.
There we go. Thank you, man.
I got it on.
Yeah. I better get the glasses on so we look like twins. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Look, there we go. So anyway, so the reason I put on the glasses is because I was 15 years old when I went to this rehearsal. I had never sung in front of a band. I had never, you know, tried to sing professionally or whatever. I never had a teacher or anything like that. Everything I did was self-taught at home. So I go to the rehearsal, they play some songs and they're like, okay, it's your turn. Come on up here. It's time for you to do your song. And I walked up there and my glasses were like this. I looked like a nerd. I look like a little nerd. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to sing the song. And sure enough, I sang the song, and I don't think I did fabulous, but I think I did good enough where I caught the manager's attention.
Yeah.
Because after the rehearsal, he says, he told my brother, he goes, he has potential. Have him come back next week. So
Nice.
he said, have him come back next week, and the rest is history. I kept going back week after week, and they basically hired me. And as a matter of fact, the first song that I rehearsed was a Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe song.
Mhm.
And then our first show that we ever did in public with that band, because it was a brand new band, the first show I ever did in public was a Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe song too. So not the song that I initially auditioned with, but
Right.
another Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe song. Okay.
Nice. Okay. Awesome.
So little by little, the guys in the band started calling me Baby Lavoe.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Baby Lavoe.
They started calling me Baby Lavoe because my manager had me singing all of these Hector Lavoe songs.
Right.
And my voice at that time sounded kind of similar. My range was similar.
Yeah.
The sound of the voice was similar as well. And he was my favorite singer. So, you know, it came naturally to me to sing his songs.
Right.
So we did our gig on August 9th, 1979.
What?
August 9th, 1979 was my very first gig.
What?
I was 15 years old.
Wow.
Okay. People do the math. Anyway, so August 9th, 1979, and the first song that I sang in front of an audience was the Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe song, La Banda. Llegó la banda tocando salsa. Okay. Wow. And the you know, it for me, my knees were knocking, you know, I was all nervous, my hands were sweaty, and my manager didn't tell me that there was going to be 1,000 people in the audience.
Whoa.
So for a 15-year-old kid who had never been on stage before, obviously, it was a totally brand new experience. And I sang the song, and I just told myself, sing it like Hector would sing it. Yeah. Sing it like Hector would sing it. And again, I did the same thing with that song. The same way, the song that I auditioned with, that I heard probably 100 times. Yeah. That song that I knew I was going to do at that show, I heard about 100 times too. I said, I got to learn it. I got to get it right. I got to do it good.
Right. Right. Holy God.
Yeah. So I ended up singing it. And at the end of the song, I didn't know if I had done well enough or not. Oh, but let me backtrack. Right before I went on stage, I was super nervous, like I was saying. And I told my manager, I said, I don't think I could do it, because I saw the audience. I said, wow, 1,000 people. Look at all those people out there. I've never stood in front of an audience. Imagínate, right? Right. So I told him, I don't think I could do it. And he looked at me very seriously. And he said, listen, you're either going to sink or swim. So he told me straight up, you're either going to sink or swim. Yeah. So I went out there, I sang the song. And after I sang the song, I heard this for the first time. People were clapping and saying, yeah, all right. Yeah, that was good. Yeah. People are shouting and screaming and clapping, and they enjoyed it. Wow. So I guess I did a good job. So now I tell people that story, and I say, yeah, I remember my manager told me, you're either going to sink or swim. And I tell people I've been swimming ever since, man. You know, because I did the job, and I'm still swimming and still trying to do the best that I can with the gift that God has given me. You know, I always tell people I'm not the greatest singer in the world, but I'm not the worst singer in the world either. So I just give it the best that I can with the gift that I have, and hopefully people are happy with it, you know? So, yeah, so that's how I started.
Wow. And that was at 15. I can't even imagine 15. How that's like to sing for the first time, not expecting to even see 1,000. You're probably thinking, oh, I was singing in front of 50, 25,
Right. Or a couple hundred people
couple
at the
hundred,
yeah.
1,000.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine, man. Wow, what an experience.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So that was your first, that's how you got into it. So
that was my baptism by fire, bro. Like, here you go, 1,000 people. Good luck. You're either gonna sink or swim. And I remember the guys in the band told me too, because I told the guys in the band, and again, remember, we were all like teenagers in high school.
Yeah.
And I had told the guys in the band before the show, you know, like I said, I'm getting nervous seeing the crowd and stuff. And I told the guys, I said, I don't think I can do it. And they said, if you don't do it, bro, we're gonna kick your, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna kick your butt if you don't get on stage and sing. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So, and the rest is history. So
wow, dude. So I was at 15, and that was in Chicago. And so
in Chicago.
So you were still singing. Were you singing? When did you at any point in your teenage years into your adulthood did you sing with other bands? Did you what was that journey like? Or
very good question. I ended up performing with that band exclusively for a few years.
nice.
And then one of the trombone players from that band was a real good friend of mine.
Mhm.
And obviously I was the singer. Oh, by the way, I was the youngest. They had like 5 singers, and I was the youngest one.
Right.
You know, everybody else was like maybe 19, 20, 23, and I was 15 years old.
Right.
So I was kind of like the attraction for the band, you know, okay, now Baby Lavoe is going to sing now, you know, that type of thing.
Right.
So as it turns out, I played with that band for probably like a year and a half to 2 years.
Mhm.
And then the trombone player and I said, you know what? It'd be nice if we could make some more money, man. You know, because do you want to know how much we got paid per gig?
How much? I'm done.
$25, bro.
What?
$25, bro. Yeah. And nowadays the musicians complain, oh man, they're not paying me enough, blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's because these days the promoters are trying to pay the musicians $40.
Yeah, it's horrible. So anyway, so
that was joking. You didn't even laugh. You're like, no,
yeah,
right. You're right.
No, right. I believe it. I believe it. Trust me, man. There's a reason that I've taken my musical career in a different direction. You know, we could talk about that if we have to. But anyway, so $25. So me and the trombone player talked, and we ended up getting an offer from another salsa band in Chicago.
Oh.
They said, hey, why don't you guys join our band? And we were like, Willie Colon played trombone.
Right.
Hector Lavoe sang, right?
Yeah, right.
So we were like the Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe combination.
Right.
Because he played trombone and I sang. So they're like, man, if we get both of these guys, and he was the best trombone player in the band, put it that way. And then I was, you know, the attraction of the band. So it was like they were getting the Chicago version of Willie and Hector, but in this case, it was Al and Tony. My friend's name was Tony, the trombone player.
Right.
So we said, how much will you offer us if we go to your band? So they said, well, we can't offer you too much, but I think we could pay you more than the other band is paying you.
Okay.
And then him and I talked. We said, you know, they ended up offering us $35 per gig. So we went from $25 to $35 a gig. Oh. And for a teenager back then, you know, that was cool. I'm getting paid to do something that I enjoy doing. That was back like in 1980, whatever, 82 or something like that.
That's bad. That $35, you could just throw it into Amazon stock and you would have been set today.
Look at that. I wish. Yeah, that would have been nice. So anyway, so they gave us $10 more, and we said, we left the band and we joined that band, performed with that band for a while. Nice. And then after being with that band for a little bit, I ended up going back to the original band again. You know, they're like, hey man, we'd love to have you back, da 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 da. And by that time, I think they were paying $35 or $40. So anyway,
we got to get them back. Let's raise our prices.
Yeah. So, but it was cool because with that first band, the one that I did the audition with, did the first show with,
Yeah.
I actually got to record too as well. So as a little teenager, uh, I actually have two songs that I recorded on an album with them.
Mhm.
And I have a live recording that I did with them too, so which was cool.
Oh, that's
And with that band, our manager was connected.
yeah.
So our manager was connected with a lot of the major clubs,
Yeah.
a lot of the concert venues within the city of Chicago,
Right.
the parks, the festivals, and things like that.
Right.
So we ended up opening up a show in 1982, I think March of 1982, uh, at a place called the Aragon Ballroom in Chicago. It's still there, and they still do concerts there. The venue holds about 5,000 people. So our manager at one of our rehearsals, he said, guys, I want to let you know that we're going to do a show at the Aragon Ballroom. And we're like, what? At the Aragon Ballroom? That's a big place. And we knew about the Aragon Ballroom because that's where they would bring all the major acts to perform.
Right.
A Gran Combo performed there. Eddie Palmieri had performed there. All the big names would go perform there at this big concert venue and dance, giant dance floor too.
Right.
So he's like, we're going to perform at the Aragon Ballroom on I think it was March 13th, 1982, a Saturday night. And he says, not only are we going to perform at the Aragon Ballroom, but we're the opening act for Celia Cruz.
What?
For Celia Cruz and Hector Lavoe.
Oh,
we were the opening act. Yeah, for Celia Cruz and Hector Lavoe.
wow.
Yeah. So here I was, this kid. Oh, I didn't tell you the story, but in December of 1979, because I was doing all these Hector Lavoe songs, I found out through the radio. Back then, you turn on your radio, they had the announcements. They're like, hey, Hector Lavoe is going to be performing on the north side of Chicago at such and such club. Don't miss it. He's going to be there Friday and Saturday. Hector Lavoe, in Spanish, though, obviously,
Right.
So I heard that and I told my manager, yo, man, you got to take me to go see Hector Lavoe, man. And that was in December of 1979. And I started singing in public first time, August 1979.
Right.
Okay. So I'm like, man, my favorite singer, Hector Lavoe, he's coming to town. He's going to be there December, on the north side of Chicago. The only problem was
What?
I was 15 years old.
Oh.
You're 15 years old. How in the world are you going to get into a club at the age 15? At the age of 15, right?
No way.
All right. I'm like, what am I going to do? Wait for him, be outside or something? Say, yo, Hector, what's up?
Hector, right here.
So I told my manager, I said, man, I would love to go see Hector Lavoe. That's my favorite singer in the whole wide world. And man, I would really love to see him. I've been listening to him ever since I was a little kid. I'm singing a lot of the songs that you gave me to sing, those Hector Lavoe songs. So anyway, my manager says, we're going to go.
Oh,
and I'm like, what?
Okay. He
says, we're going to go. I said, but I'm 15 years old. How are you going to get me into the club? He goes, don't worry about that. I'll take care of it. So he ended up picking up a couple of the other guys from the band, I remember. Then he picked me up at my house. And then we ended up shooting to the north side of Chicago, far north side of Chicago.
Yeah.
And we got there and he ended up talking to the person at the door and they recognized him right away. Like I said, my manager was connected. He had probably like about 5 or 6 different salsa bands that he managed.
Right. Okay.
So he was like an Albert Torres or a Rafi Mercado of Chicago, basically, because he had bands and he would put on different events. So they recognized him at the door right away, and he says, "Hey, I have some of my musicians here. And I want to see if we could go in, because you know this kid over here, he does a lot of the Hector song, and this is his favorite singer. You know, is there any way you could let us in to see the concert? And they said, come on in, come on in. So they ended up getting us in.
Shit.
So I got to that night. I told my manager, whatever you do, please introduce me to Hector. Please, Hector, man.
Wow.
That's my favorite singer in the whole wide world. You got to introduce me to him.
This was 82, 83, what year?
That was December 1979. I was 15 years old.
Wow.
15 years old.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, you got to introduce me to Hector. So I'm sitting at a table off to the side of the stage, and I see the musicians starting to come on stage. And then all of a sudden I see Hector making his way to the stage. And I'm like, wow, that's Hector Lavoe, man.
Oh, wow.
You know, I had only seen the album covers and stuff
right.
And back then we didn't have the internet or anything like that. So it's just like, there's the album cover. You know, that's it.
Cover.
That's Hector Lavoe on the album cover, you know. So so anyway, so I said, that's Hector Lavoe, man. Wow. So then I told my manager, please take me to meet him. I would like to meet him. So one of the things that I noticed when I got to the club is that back in the old days, they would have a photographer walking around the club. Yeah. And this guy had his camera around, you know, his a strap around his neck, but it was a Polaroid camera. Right. And he was charging $5 for a photo. Right. So he could take a photo of you at your table, take a photo of you with some of the musicians, standing in front of the band, dancing or whatever. Right. So what I did is, because I saw the photographer, I ended up telling him, I said, yo, man, I would really love to get a picture with Hector Lavoe. He goes, oh, you just let me know. He didn't care. He just wanted to make his $5. Right?
He wanted the $5. Yeah.
Right. He wanted $5, man.
Yeah,
so he's like, yeah, you just let me know. You just let me know. So then right before Hector was going to go on stage, I kept bugging my manager, yo, take me to meet Hector. Take me to meet Hector. Mm-hmm. And he goes, okay, let's go. So we went and he took me to the front of the stage, and Hector was, you know, off of the stage, kind of like just chit chatting with a few people, like, hey, ¿cómo está? You know, just saying hi to a few folks. Wow. And then my manager said, oh yeah, Hector, ven acá. Hector, come over here. And then Hector, you know, recognized them, because my manager's bands had alternated with him in the past. His bands had opened up for him whenever he came to Chicago.
So you recognized him, right? Okay.
Right. So it's like, hey, ¿cómo está? Right? So then he goes, este muchachito te quiere conocer. Él canta tu canciones. You know, this kid, you know, he wants to meet you. He sings your songs, all that stuff. So anyway, so sure enough, the one thing that I remember is that I stuck my hand out to shake his hand, and Hector Lavoe, if you look back at the old pictures, he used to wear a lot of rings. Yeah. He always had a lot of rings on. And because I was so nervous, I grabbed his hand and I squeezed his hand as hard as I could. And it was almost like he winced, because I squeezed it so hard and he had those rings on, you know. Right. I'm like, ¿cómo está? You know, just Alberto, you know. And then, so needless to say, that was my first meeting with Hector. And then the photographer was off to the side. Yeah. So I said, Hector, is it okay if I get a photo with you? Yeah. And he goes, oh, no puedo ahora porque voy a tocar. I can't do it right now because I'm getting ready to go on stage and perform. Yeah. So then I was a 15-year-old kid. This is my favorite singer. I got the photographer ready. Yeah. And he's like, I don't got a second for you, bro, to take a picture. Okay. Oh. He goes, I'm sorry, I got to go on stage. So me being a little kid, my feelings were hurt.
Right, of course.
I'm like, man, I can't believe this guy couldn't take a second to take a picture with me. What's up with that?
It's like your favorite singer.
So my favorite singer. So then he ended up going on stage, and we ended up going back to our table. Oh. And when I went back to our table, I did this. I crossed my arms, and I just started to pout. And then it was so bad. I was so upset that I started to pout, and I said, and I just put my head on the table and just like, man, I don't even want to be here, you know. He didn't give me the time and da 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 da. And then my manager, he gave me one of these. He said, boom. He ended up hitting me right here in the arm.
Right.
And he's like, listen, you're not a little kid anymore. You don't fold your arms and start you're acting like a baby here. Sit up and watch the show. You know, he was basically telling me, could being a kid, you know, you're at a club, act like a young man, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So then I'm like, okay. So I did that. I got back up, but I was still pouting. Then, Hector and the band started playing, and with every passing note and with every song that he sang, that frown turned upside down, and I was like, wow. And I went from like this, all pouting, to like with my eyes about this big, my mouth open, like amazing. This guy sounds great, you know? So needless to say, I was blown away by the band, and I was blown away by Hector. I'm like, wow, they sound great, man. It was a real professional salsa band, and Hector was at the top of his game.
Yeah.
His voice was crystal clear, and they were tearing it up. Okay, I was like, wow. So what ended up happening was when the set ended, I said, man, I gotta try again.
Nice.
I gotta try to see if I can see him again, talk with him again, and maybe get that picture with him. So I told my manager, yo, can we go up there again? I was scared to go by myself. I was scared to go by myself. I'm a 15-year-old kid. And he goes, come on, let's go, let's go. So sure enough, he took me up there, and we saw him again. And then we said, hey, Hector, can you come over here for a second? I had the photographer again. He was standing by the side of the stage. And I'm like waving him over, say, hey, come over here, come over here. And then, you know, I told him, hey, man, it sounded great. Wow, it was amazing. Do you think I could get that photo now? And he goes, yeah, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do the photo. So he was cool. You know, he said, yeah, let's go ahead and do the photo. And right when I was going to take this photo, a lady grabs his arm, grabbed him by the arm, and started to try to pull him away.
Oh.
Right. So she grabbed his arm and, you know, and started to pull him away. And then then Hector ended up doing like this with his hand. He was telling the lady, like, you know, his hand was to his side, and she was grabbing his hand down here, right next to his side, trying to pull him away. But his hand was kind of like saying, hey, wait, right? And then he took the picture with me. Mr. $5 photographer, he snapped the photo, and the rest is history.
There it is. There's the photo. Do it a little bit to the, I can't see all of it.
Okay.
Let's see here. Oh, there it is right there. Wow.
If you look carefully, what do you see right there?
Wow.
That's that lady's hand right there.
The lady's hand.
Grabbing his arm.
The lady's hand's grabbing on his arm. Oh my God.
Hey.
This is at his peak.
Yeah, and you could see his hand right there, kind of like, hey, give me a second. Give me a second. Hey, slow your roll, lady. Slow your roll. So,
oh my God, look at that. That photo is fucking priceless, bro.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was December 9th, Saturday, December 9th, 1979. And little did I know that 2 years later, or basically a year and a half later, on March 13th, 1982, I would be opening up a show for him in Celia Cruz. You know, I went from just singing a few months in public. Back then in 79, I had only sang for a few months in public. To now, I was going to be an opening act at the Aragon Ballroom, which is a huge venue. And we're opening up for Celia Cruz, Hector Lavoe. Who does that? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm like, this is amazing. Now, the cool thing about it was a couple of things. That venue holds about 5,000 people.
Right.
And a lot of people go there because they have a giant dance floor, and they go there so they could dance and have room to dance.
Right.
That night, it was so crowded that it was like this, so many people that people couldn't even dance. They were like this. I'm not exaggerating either,
No.
because it was so tight. They were just, no room to dance, because you had two major headliners, Celia and Hector.
Yeah.
I mean, those are major stars, and then of course you had Baby Lavoe too.
Baby Lavoe, yeah, in the beginning.
But let me tell you a funny story in regards to that. Since we were the opening act, my manager ended up telling the guys, okay, pull out La Murga de Panama.
Oh, yeah.
One of Hector and Willie Colon's most famous songs. Yeah. So I look at my manager and I'm like, dude, are you crazy? You gonna put me to sing a Hector Lavoe song at a Hector Lavoe concert? I'm like, are you crazy, dude? I mean, why are we doing that? So he's like, we're gonna do the number. You just sing it. I'm like, okay. So I start singing La Murga, Murga pa aquí, Murga pa allá, and I'm doing my thing, right? And all of a sudden, and I'm not lying, God is my witness, once I started hitting my notes and singing the lead of the song, people started coming to the front of the stage. Yeah. Little by little, they started coming to the front of the stage because they thought that Hector Lavoe had started.
Right.
They heard right. And then they hear me, who I sounded very similar to him back then. They heard me doing the lead of the song, and people just started coming to the front of the stage. And I'm telling myself while I'm up there holding the microphone, I'm like, what are these people doing coming to the front of the stage?
Oh, shit.
And I'm freaking out, because they're coming to the front and they're all staring at me like, oh, who's this kid? We thought it was Hector, but this kid is not so bad. He's pretty good. So my brother told me, my brother had a gig with one of his bands that he was in at the time. He walked in when we were playing La Murga. He's walking into the venue all the way in the back of the venue. He's walking in with one of his buddies, probably another fellow musician. And his fellow musician, that they're going up the stairs to get into the club, into the big venue. His friend goes, hey, man, hurry up. Hector started, man. Hurry up. Let's go. Hector's up there. They're playing La Murga. Oh, and then as soon as they got in, my brother hit him with an elbow and said, that ain't Hector, man. That's my brother, man. And, like real proud. And he was the one who got me into the music. And then he's like, that's my brother. And his friend was like, wow, that's your brother. Oh, that's cool. So needless to say, that's something that I will never forget, was that experience that night. So,
and was Hector there? Did he hear your performance? I would imagine he did.
I don't think he did because he was backstage, but I'm sure some of his musicians, right. Musicians always like hanging around stage or backstage, just checking everything out, right? So I'm sure some of his musicians got to hear me sing and stuff like that too. Yeah. But the cool thing about that evening too was I made sure to document it as well, as far as let me see if I got another photo with Hector that night.
What?
Yeah.
Did he recognize you from the past original photo, or not? Probably.
Listen,
not.
I wouldn't say that he recognized me, but maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But I'm trying to find that pic for you so I can show it to you, man.
That's crazy.
Give me a second here.
That story's crazy. That's it.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was that we did our set, and then after our set, I recorded that concert, the whole thing.
Oh shit!
I had a little Sony cassette recorder that I took with me.
Right.
And bro, that had a little speaker on it, that a little microphone on it. That was amazing. It was attached to the unit, and it was an amazing recorder. So what ended up happening was I recorded it. And that thing would be priceless right now, that cassette.
Fuck yeah.
The reason that nobody could hear that cassette is because I played it so many times. I don't know if you remember what would happen with cassette players. They would start chewing up the tape.
Yep.
And I played it so many times that they said, that's it, man, I'm done. it snapped and broke. It got crumbled. It got all eaten. You name it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna show you an exclusive here.
Oh, what? Let's see here.
That is the poster from that night.
Oh, wow.
The flyer.
You go to the left a little bit.
This way.
Right to the right. Maybe you're right.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, wow, right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Aragon Ballroom, you see down there. And here you go, buddy. This is when Hector came off stage. I was already waiting on the side of the stage.
Yeah.
And I said, Hector, ¿cómo está? You know, I met you, you know, about a year or so ago, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, hey, ¿cómo está? ¿Cómo está? I said, ¿puedo sacar una foto contigo? Can I get a picture with you? And he goes, okay, está bien. You could tell he was high. When I saw him at that first gig, he wasn't wasted. This one, he was gone. He was gone. Yeah, he was gone. And you could even see it in the photo. But give me 1 second here. I'm trying to get the photo ready for you. But do you know who Rafi Mercado is?
Of course.
Ralph Mercado was another huge, famous salsa promoter. He had RMM Records and management, Rafi Mercado management. Anyway, so Rafi Mercado standing right next to Hector, and he's like, Hector, we gotta go. We gotta go. Yeah. And it reminded me of that first photo I got with Hector when the lady was trying to pull Hector away. Right, so I'm like, here we go again. Part two, we're doing this again. This time it's Rafi Mercado telling Hector, we gotta go, let's go, let's go. Right. But Hector was kind enough, even though he was high or whatever, he was still kind enough to hit the brakes and take the time to take a photo with me. And there it is.
Let's see here. What?
Yeah. It's hard to get a good look at it, but yeah.
It's a little blurry. Hector's on the left?
This is Hector here, and that's me.
Oh, Hector's on the right.
Yeah, he's. Oh, there you go.
I see now, yeah, perfect right there.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you kind of see it. He's a little wasted there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, that picture is amazing. You had another picture with him.
Yeah, but that's not it. I had 3 pictures with him.
3 pictures? What?
Because not too long later that year, he came to Chicago again.
Yeah.
And this time we didn't open up for him, but I was able to get backstage because now people knew me, that I was a musician.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of times you can't get backstage, but if you know people and they know you, they're like, oh, it's Al, you know, oh, come on, bro. Yeah, come on in. Right. So he, one of the guys at the door got me and one of my other musician friends in. And I ended up getting another photo with him and talking with him. And the funny story about that photo is that when I took the photo with him, Hector Lavoe was a big time smoker. He used to smoke Marlboro, or whatever you call them, cigarettes. I don't smoke. So he used to smoke those. So right before we were going to take the photo, he goes, here, hold this for me. And he gave me his cigarette. Mm-hmm. So in the photo, I'm actually holding his cigarette in my hand. You can't see it because I have it down here, right? You know, I have the cigarette like this and I'm holding it down. And we took the photo and I'm actually holding his cigarette in my hand. But anyway,
so
then a year later, I opened up a show for him again.
Nice.
This time it was at festival in Humboldt Park. Humboldt Park was like the Central Park of Chicago for Puerto Ricans, okay? Yeah. And they would do a Puerto Rican festival every June, just like in New York. Oh, and they try to do them out here too in California too, but not as successful, unfortunately.
Right. Be at that Puerto Rican festival? Holy shit! To see.
Yeah. Lavoe? So we did no. Let's backtrack 1 second. Okay. It wasn't just with Lavoe. It was Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe.
Wow.
Okay, so this was kind of like a reunion. It was like a reunion. Right. So you say Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe, that's going to bring up out all the old school salseros, right, and all the people who are familiar with Hector at that time, you know, that he was hot and doing his thing, you know, so all those salseros are going to come out too. And then word of mouth was spread. Oh, you got to go check out this concert.
Right, right.
How many How many people did I tell you I sang before in my first concert?
1,000.
1,000. I
Right.
sang in front of 1,000 people.
Right.
And again, I thought, wow, this is crazy.
Right.
The show that I did with Hector Lavoe and Willie Colon, we went on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a Sunday.
Yeah.
It was a festival at the park. We went on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Willie Colon and Hector went on at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So we did 3 o'clock. We did a nice long set. I think somebody else came in, did another set, and then Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe. Bro, when I was on stage, all I could see in front of me were heads.
What?
For as far as the eye could see, the whole park was packed. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. I had never seen anything like that.
Holy shit.
So here I went from 1,000 people at my first show. The next day in the newspaper, it says Puerto Rican Festival with Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe draws 100,000 people to the park.
Oh.
That is documented. It's in the newspapers. I have clippings of it, everything.
Wow.
100,000 people. So I was literally singing in front of 100,000 people, dude. Like, whoa. You know? So, yeah. So that was an amazing experience too.
That's amazing, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's incredible. Wow.
Yeah, and then eventually, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Have to be video of this, right? It's documented.
1983. 1983.
Yeah, it's rare. Yeah.
1983.
That's rare.
You know, it's not like people had their cell phones and they're like, I'm gonna get this, man. I'm gonna Instagram it or whatever.
Unless there was news there or those big
right. The only thing that I have from that particular show is a couple of newspaper clippings.
Yeah.
And my buddy, the trombone player that I told you about earlier, him and his family ended up taking 3 photos of Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe on stage during that show. So that's the only. Actually, it took 4 photos. Actually, it took more, but I've only seen 4 photos. Unfortunately, that day, because it was so crowded, security was so tight, that's the only time that I did something where I was at a Hector show that I didn't get a chance to actually talk with him and hang out and get a photo. But still, the honor of opening up a show for him and Willie, and then the experience of playing in front of that audience, it was amazing, So, yeah.
Fucking amazing, man. Wow. That's one of the most amazing stories of a famous musician like Hector. Because Hector's like the biggest. Hector and Celia were the biggest.
Yeah.
And to have a picture, have 2 pictures?
3.
3.
3.
3. That's incredible, dude.
3, and I have another one that remember I told you about my manager, and that his bands used to alternate with Hector when Hector would come to Chicago.
Right.
He has a picture of 1976, or he had. Keyword is had.
Right.
A picture from 1976. That's when Periódico de Ayer was the big hit.
Ooh.
That's when that came out. Y para que leer un periódico de ayer. Anyway, so he has a picture of Hector singing in Chicago in 1976 when Periódico de Ayer came out. So notice I said had. Okay. All right. Before I became a man of God and before I started serving the Lord, I stole that picture from him, man. Listen, man, he was my favorite singer.
You have it.
I have it. I do have it. And the world has never seen that photo. And I'm going to give you an exclusive.
What?
All right.
What? Another exclusive? Oh my God.
Yes, sir. I am in the process right now of writing a Hector Lavoe book.
That is fucking awesome, man.
I'm writing a Hector Lavoe book, and hopefully it's taken me forever to write it. I've already interviewed tons of people. I have hours upon hours of footage of former musicians and people that worked with him and associated with him.
Right, right.
I have literally hours worth of Zoom calls, phone calls, all recorded.
That's
okay.
Awesome.
So right now I'm getting ready to start chapter 3.
Okay.
Chapter 3. There we go. 3.
Nice.
Yeah. So chapter 3, I'll start that this week. Lord willing, I'll start it this week. But in that book, everybody will get an opportunity to see these photos. Yeah. And I also have some other never before seen photos of Hector as well, that some family friends gave to me, that they saw him. People have never seen these photos either.
Wow.
And just some real interesting stories too. The one thing that we hear about Hector Lavoe a lot, if you watch that J-Lo and Mark Anthony movie, you see a lot of the negative stuff.
You see a lot of, I wasn't that big of a fan of that one.
Right, neither was I. Because they focus a lot on, he was a druggie, he was like this, he was like that, all that stuff. A lot of negativity. And most of the musicians that I talked to, they could not stand that movie. They didn't like the movie.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that movie.
Right.
I mean, they focused on the negative, which that was a part of his life, but there was so many other things that were so much bigger.
Right. So the objective of my book is to give the audience or readers, it's not going to be another biography because there's a bunch of biographies out there already. But the objective of my book is to have people see Hector in a different light.
Yeah.
You know, a lot has been said, oh, you know, if you ask the common person, oh yeah, he was a good singer, but you know, he was a drug addict, this and that, all that. And you never hear the other side of him. One of the musicians told me, he goes, listen, Hector wasn't high 24 hours a day.
Right.
You know, he had a life too.
Right.
And he did a lot of good things too, you know, and he was a good father and, you know, this and that and that. And these are things that people don't hear and that they don't know. So I'm going to be taking people behind the scenes with people that went on trips around the world with him, people that did shows with him, people that went to go have dinner at his house, you know, people that hung out with him and knew him intimately, you know what I'm saying? Where they saw the good, the bad, and the ugly, all that stuff. They saw it all.
They saw it all, right.
They saw it all. And then, you know, obviously there's stories where like, yeah, we missed gigs because of this, but a lot of people don't know this, you know? So this book is gonna actually bring all that stuff to light. So I'm looking forward to doing it. So
you've been working on that book for a while. When did you decide that you wanted to write a book? It just
I've always had it in the back of my mind. In the back of my mind, I'm like, man, it'd be nice if I could write a Hector Lavoe book one day, just to kind of tell my stories about Hector Lavoe.
Yeah.
But then, you know the old famous saying, right? The old famous saying is, man, I wish I had time to do this.
Right.
Man, I wish I had time to do that.
Right.
I wish I had time to do this. I wish I had time to do that. And people never do stuff because they don't have the time to do it, right?
Right.
Because of the pandemic, that prompted me to say, you know what? No more excuses, buddy. You got the time now.
Yeah, right.
Everybody was on lockdown.
Right.
And I said, you know what? Am I going to waste this time or am I going to make the most of this time?
Right.
And I said, I already, in my heart and in my mind, I already had the ideas and how I wanted to approach the story and the book and how I wanted to present, you know, Hector Lavoe from a different perspective.
Right.
As I mentioned, you know, there's already been a bunch of biographies written about him. I don't want to do another biography. Yeah. Again, I'm doing it from the musician's perspective, from those people who were tight with him, those people who actually hung out with him, okay? Mm-hmm. Not just like, oh yeah, and Hector Lavoe performed here, and I remember he was high, you know, that type of thing. So again, so during the pandemic, I said, you know, I'm gonna do this. And little by little, I started reaching out to this musician, to that musician. Yeah. That musician connected me to another musician. That musician said, hey, call this guy. Yeah. Then another musician said, oh, you need to get a hold of this person. Yeah. So I ended up doing, I'm not exaggerating either, I probably did like about 16 different interviews.
Yeah.
one of the musicians that I interviewed gave me 7 hours worth of material.
Wow.
7 hours, dude.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
And these are people that were on the front lines with Hector.
Yeah.
Meaning traveling with him around the world, doing gigs in New York, Chicago, Peru, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama. So all these stories, I'm bringing them out. So yeah,
Wow.
it's gonna be quite interesting, man.
Oh, that's gonna be.
Pray for me that I get it done.
I want. I'll buy that book. Jeez, I want to read it.
Yeah.
It's just and it's interesting. You mentioned, you want to tell the story of Hector Lavoe from the musician perspective,
Right.
because there's so many autobiographies of him, of just different other people that really weren't in the trenches as much as all the musicians. That's a great point, because that movie that so many people did not like was written by who? By the wife, or it wasn't even, I don't even know who. Yeah. So
yeah. The story is just to give you a quick little rundown how that happened, is that Jennifer Lopez approached Hector's wife. Her name was Pucci. And her name was Pucci, and she ended up saying, listen, I would love to do Hector Lavoe's story. Will you give me the rights to do it? And so J-Lo, being J-Lo and wanting to have a major part in it, she told the story from the point of view of Pucci.
Pucci, yeah.
Right. So that's why you see a lot of J-Lo in there. Right. A lot of J-Lo. Some people were saying they should have called it the Pucci movie with Hector Lavoe.
Right. Agree. I wasn't a big fan at all. I was actually pretty disappointed in the movie. I wanted someone, and this is for someone that actually is out there hearing this, please reach out to Albert so that way you can get the details of his book. If you ever want to write a movie, reach out to Albert. What I've always envisioned, and when I left, and this is between you and I and all the listeners, when I left the movie theater and I watched El Cantante, I was so sad. You know why? I was so sad and so depressed that I was just so bummed that they made the movie so negative. And what I wanted to see something like the movie Ray.
Right.
Like that movie. The way they told the story of Ray from when he was a child, he was blind, and just all the things that he went through in the course of his young adult life and through the course of his life. I wanted to see that story of Hector fucking in Puerto Rico as a kid, coming to the US. I wanted to hear his start. That's what I wanted to see, not all the bad stuff that we all know happened. It's just there's so much good out there that a lot of people didn't get to see.
Let's just put it this way. If I were to tell you some of the stories of the good things that he did, you would be shaking your head.
Yeah.
You'll be shaking your head, and you might even be at the point of tears.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be in the book.
Don't tell me. Save it for the book.
No, it's going to be in the book.
That's amazing. Yeah. And when what's your timeline? As far you're on chapter 3 or starting chapter 3, what are you looking at? We're still on lockdown. I know you have no gigs.
No. We're still on lockdown. And speaking of gigs, I did do one gig.
Hey man, come on, man. We're on lockdown. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Newsom's gonna come after you.
I'll tell you about that gig because it's funny. It'll be brief. I'll tell you about that in a moment. But as far as the book is concerned, I'm working right now. I'm working a full-time job. Right. Thankfully, I ended up picking up a job at a medical clinic.
Yeah.
So I'm double vaccinated, all that stuff, Right. So the only drawback from having the full-time job is that it put me into slow motion.
Right.
As far as writing.
Right.
I mean, I already have the whole 3rd chapter. I already have the entire outline for the 3rd chapter.
Yeah.
So now just a matter of doing this, just starting to write it out because I have the whole outline already written out. And as I mentioned, I interviewed probably about 16 different people for it. And if I mention some of the names, you'll probably recognize some of these names.
Right.
You probably recognize most of the names. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to decide, am I actually going to do 16 chapters or am I going to condense it?
Got it.
If I'm just, maybe one of the chapters, I'll just share some key stories from this guy, and this guy. But the way that I'm doing it, just to let you know, is I interviewed the musicians and I told the musicians, not only do I want them to know about your experiences with Hector,
Mhm.
I want them to know about you too. So you're going to get a background on these musicians that worked with Hector, how they got, like you were asking me, how did you get into music? Right.
I
ended up asking every single one of them, tell me your story.
Right.
So I got like a bio for each one of them. So the chapter is going to start off with their story, and then it's going to lead into how they ended up in Hector's band. So, and then, their experiences while they were with Hector and all that stuff too. So, yeah. So timeline, only God knows, because the last chapter that I just finished, chapter 2, it took me literally about 2 months to do chapter 2.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Because it's time consuming, especially when I don't have the time now, like I used to, when I wasn't, working full time.
Right.
So I'm like, Lord, make a way, that I get some more time, but I need my job. I need to pay some bills, So anyway.
I know, of course, man.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Do you have a title?
I do, but I'm not throwing that out there.
Okay.
I'm not throwing it out there yet, but I do have a title. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. I even have a mock cover for the book already too.
Nice. That is awesome. Dude, I'm looking forward to that, man. I'm excited and looking forward to that.
Yeah, I haven't shared that with a lot of people. I've been keeping it on the down low because a lot of times when...
Now this is going to be on YouTube, man. Everyone's going to know.
Well, no, that's okay though. When you share your dreams with people, there's a lot of people who are dream killers, unfortunately. Like,
That was deep, bro. Dream.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. There's a lot of people that are dream killers.
There are people out there that are dream killers. Wow.
Right. So, which means that, they'll be like, you're going to write a book? You think you can do that? Da, 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 da. So I haven't really put it out there a lot, man, because I don't want people to sow any negative seeds into my mind or into my thoughts, because I want to stay focused on it and I want to take care of business. Again, that's why I haven't, told anybody, my goal, again, I told you because obviously I know you were, I've known you for many years now. And I felt, since we were talking about Hector so much, I had to drop a little exclusive on you, man. So
no, dude, I appreciate it. This kind of turned into a Hector Lavoe podcast, right?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, yeah.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. This is going to be Albert, the Hector Lavoe story podcast. We're gonna have to do another podcast because I want to know more about you, brother. Because this was amazing about Lavoe. Dude. I had no idea that you experienced this, because when I first met you, I remember you showing me that picture.
There you go. Yeah.
I remember I don't know where you were performing. I don't know if it was at Sevilla's in San Diego or it was somewhere where you actually broke out that picture. And I think Jesse told me, he's like, you know that Al took a picture with Hector Lavoe. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Al? I was like, dude, he fucking knew a shitload of people, dude. He performed with all the greats. And I'm like,
dude,
when you showed me it, I almost fucking fainted, bro.
Let's hit the brakes for a second. Dude, I opened up shows for La Sonora Ponceña.
Woo!
I opened up shows for El Gran Combo. I opened up shows for Ray Barretto, for Luis Perico Ortiz.
Legends.
Celia Cruz, Hector Lavoe, Jimmy Bosch.
Yeah.
Sang with him a couple of times too. But anyway, yeah, so.
Yeah, it's crazy because when Jesse told me, I was like, what? And when you showed me that picture, I almost wanted to cry because I was like, wow, you got a picture with Hector Lavoe. Yeah. Like, wow. Like,
imagine how people felt when I went to Ponce, Puerto Rico. That's where Hector's from, Ponce, Puerto Rico. My wife and I went out there on vacation a couple years ago. And we just happened to be someplace, and I think they might have been playing some Hector Lavoe music at the store.
Yeah.
And I always have my phone, so I have that photo on my phone.
Yeah.
Because it's near and dear to me. Because there's a personal story there.
Right.
So when they were playing some Hector Lavoe music or something, and we were in Ponce, his hometown.
Yeah.
And I told the guy, I said, hey, do you recognize that dude right there in the photo? And I showed him the photo on my phone. And he goes, ese Hector Lavoe, ese Hector Lavoe, right? That's Hector, that's Hector. Of course I recognize him. And then I said, you recognize the guy next to him?
Yeah.
And that's me, the little kid, right, in the photo.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, ¿quién es ese? ¿Quién es? Who's that, right?
Yeah, right.
I said, that's me, man. And they're like, what? That's you? And then he's like, man, that photo is priceless, man. That's an amazing photo. And, he was like freaked out just because he saw that photo. So,
in fact, that photo could be in your book.
It's going to be in the book.
Yeah. No, of course, but on the back, I mean, next to the adult version of you. You know what I mean? It's like, wow. Yeah, it's an amazing photo, man. So, yeah. Well, dude, we've been talking for an hour about Hector, man. I love it though. I love it. I wanna do another podcast about just you and dude, this is great. Like I'm blown away by this story. Like I had no idea just the details and the enormity of your Lavoe story, man. It's incredible, man.
Well, there's more to it, obviously, but that'll come out later in the book. So yeah.
We're excited to hear it, brother.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast, bro, and sharing your Hector Lavoe story. I'm gonna reach out to you again, dude, and then we're gonna do another one.
Absolutely.
This was amazing, bro.
Then we'll talk about salsa caliente. We'll talk about Johnny Polanco, traveling all around the world and all that stuff.
Yes, that'll be the next one. That'll be part 2, brother.
Absolutely.
I'll reach out to you shortly, dude. Much respect, brother. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while, man. I can't wait until everything opens up and you start playing again, so that way I can come out and fucking support, man.
Let me end with the story. I told you that I did a gig.
Yeah.
In January, I got a phone call, January of this year, 2021.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And some guy calls me. He's like, hey, man, I want you to do a gig for me, man. And the guy was practically crying.
Oh, shit.
It's like, I want you to do a gig for me. My dad died. Oh. He goes, my dad died, and he was a big Hector Lavoe fan, since we're talking about Hector. Yeah. He goes, he was a big Hector Lavoe fan, and he liked the Fania band, Ray Barretto, all these guys. Can you do a show for us? Yeah. And I'm like, well, we're on lockdown, man. I don't know if we could do it. He goes, no, man, don't worry. We're gonna do it in the parking lot. I already talked to the people at the funeral home. They said it's okay. Right. So I said, are you sure? He goes, yeah, I want you to do it. My dad would have wanted to celebrate his life, with music, right?
Right.
So to make a long story short, we did the gig. We went there, we did it, and the guy's like, play. We're playing, and people are crying, dude, while we're playing, They're crying because they're like, oh, he would have loved this. He would have loved this, And then halfway into our second song, a police car pulls up. A police car pulls into the parking lot where we were set up performing.
Oh, shit.
And the guy's like, hey, stop the music, stop the music. The guy who hired me, his father was the one who had passed away. So he went to talk to the police officer and told the police officer, listen, my dad, he just passed away. He loved this music. They're only going to play for a little while longer. And I'm telling the guys, get ready to pack up, get ready to get out of here, So then I'm like, I hope I don't get in trouble. As soon as I thought that, I hear, hey, Al, come over here. The police officer wants to talk to you. I'm like, oh, no. So I thought maybe he was going to give me a ticket or something like that or whatever, right? So then he goes, is there any way that you can lower the music a little bit? I'm going to let you play for a little bit longer. but please lower it as low as you can. I said, I'll do whatever you want, sir. You know, and then the guy kept reassuring the police officer, oh, they're almost done. They're almost done, right? So then the police officer said, don't worry, the person who called and complained, I'm going to call them up and let them know that you guys are finishing up. So then the police officer left. We performed again quietly.
Right.
And then the guy told me, when we did our second set, we did like about 4 songs. He goes, I want the last song, I want you guys to blast it. He goes, blast it, man. And the last song was Todo Tiene Su Final.
Oh,
yeah, from Hector Lavoe and Willie Colon. He goes, they used to be one of my dad's favorite songs, man.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's
so we did it, man. So that was my only gig this year so far at a funeral. So.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. What a great story. Damn, brother. Well, dude, thank you for being a part of the fucking show, brother. Thank you for this amazing Lavoe story. And I'll talk to you very soon, brother.
All right, man. God bless.
Brother. God bless.
Thank you, brother. God bless.